There we go. Ooh, look at that. Right, he's still there. Every fish we've seen has been right in the margins, and this one, I've just chucked it up the margins there, and he's come out and nailed it, come off, put another cast across it, and had it straight away. But don't be afraid of using something a bit bright and leery. Good morning and welcome back. Something slightly different today. We're on quite a famous carp lake. This is Horseshoe Lake and it's owned and run by the Carp Society. Obviously we're not here carp fishing. We've come to have a look, see if we can catch some pike. We've just had a quick couple of casts and we've had one already, so that's quite promising. The water is absolutely crystal clear. So my normal sort of go-to big bright baits may or may not work, but we're going to hit this today with a bit of a two-prong really. Throw some big baits, primarily quite bright baits. I'm a firm believer that if the fish aren't that fished for, then and they can see a big bait, then they're going to come and have a look, or even better, come and hit it. So we're going to throw some big baits. This is the 23 centimetre pro grub. And then our sort of two-pronged attack is also obviously everything on wire, but also throw some smaller baits. So this is actually a 10 centimetre pro shad in a much more natural colour. This is the new Silver Halo. But yeah, we're going to go out with both rods, see what we can do. We have seen a couple of pike in the margins, which is, again, is promising. And from the few casts I've already had, it's extremely weedy. It's still really warm for the time of the year and we've had no cold frost really to get rid of this blanket weed. So I've got a feeling we might fish the margins, which might work to our advantage. But yeah, stick with us and we'll see how we can do. So as I've already said, just from the couple of casts I've had, it seems quite weedy out in the open. So we are going to concentrate on the margins and just work our way systematically around the lake. I will have a few casts further out just to see. But yeah, we're just keeping it really simple today, to be honest. I've got a net there with a big unhooking mat. I've got a bag literally with a few bits thrown in there, handful of lures. Few different jig heads for my lighter rod, couple of different baits for the heavier rod, and obviously the most important bit, all my unhooking tools. But yeah, just a bit of exploring. So we want to cover quite a lot of the water today and it's quite a big venue. So yeah, keeping it nice and light and simple is the way forward. Oh, he's turned on that, but he's still not committing. So I do need to find something today. Obviously we've only had a few casts, but find out what the pattern is. The big pro grub has got them interested. We've had one fish in the previous swim. We've just had a follow in this swim, but the only colour I've used so far is that bright UV perch. Just put the little 10 centimetre pro grub past him, and to be honest, it did turn, but it didn't look like he was going to commit at all. So as much as I'm a bit limited on what I've brought out of the van so far this morning, I think I will just change colour and probably change to a paddle tail. I just have a few more casts in this swim. There's obviously one fish here, there might be a couple more, but you can always start on your favourite colours and your favourite patterns and your favourite lures, but that's not necessarily what they're going to want on the day. So yeah, let me just switch over and we'll see if we can get this one. So sticking with the big bait theme, I've just swapped over from the 23 centimetre Pro Grub to, I believe it's actually the 23 centimetre Super Slick Shad. This is again in one of my favourite colours. This is UV Pike. So let's just give it a different colour, different presentation, and just see. This is one really cool thing with today actually is, I don't know this venue. I have fished it once before many years ago, but it's crystal clear. So even if we're not actually getting the bites or the hits, we can get a lot of feedback from the fish because we can see them following in. And they haven't been big fish so far, a couple of pounds, maybe 6 or 8 pound, the biggest one, but great to see and great to help you work out patterns for the day. There we go. Oh, look at that. Right, he's still there. So what's really interesting is we've only fished, I don't know, 6 or 7 swims that we've sort of dropped into at the moment, and in say 3 of those swims we've seen pike right in the margins, proper head facing the margins, tucked really shallow. I've had those follows on the big curly tail, and I've tried a couple of other curly tails with no response. I've now gone onto a Xander Pro natural colour, and again they're just not even responding at all, not turning, not even looking at it. But what was really interesting is I've just seen a pike come out of the margins down there, and I said to Ben actually, I said, this one's got a big scar on the side of its mouth, and it wasn't a scar, it was actually a crayfish claw, and it's bit the crayfish, and there's particles of crayfish have tumbled all down into the margins. So I think these fish probably don't have a lot of bait fish to be eating, so I think they're probably nose into the margins looking for these crayfish that are scurrying about, and they're hitting them. Certainly that one was gorging himself on them, so that might be why the curly tail has given us some response, and so far the paddle tail hasn't. Again, I am a bit limited just this morning on what's in my bag, but we've got plenty of scope to get back to the van and get some crayfish patterns. So I do think that might be a little edge later this afternoon maybe. Yeah, just some a bit more flappy, either different colours of the paddle tail or one of these crayfish imitations, but something that's very interesting that I've never actually witnessed before. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and yeah, see how it progresses. There's one. I was like, oh, crikey, we've done some hunting around swims to get a bite there. It's not a very big fish, but at least we've had a pull. So yeah, we finally had a pull. Still on the bright UV perch curly tail, the Pro Grub. Oh, let's try and get down here without getting too wet. Woohoo! Not the biggest fish in the world, but it's another pike on a big venue. Oh, that one looks a bit nicer colours and a bit healthier, yeah. There we go. Need to have all the right tools, we'll worry about that in a sec. Yeah, lovely colours on this one. Really strange actually, it's super short head and mouth on it. Really short. But yeah, we've put a few casts in to get to that fish. Really green. I'm going to get him back, then work our way around the rest of the lake and see if we can get another one. Oh, he's off. Here he comes. Oh. Oh, finally. We've got halfway around the lake. I need to grab my net. We've been halfway around the lake. We've seen no sign of life. But really interestingly, the few we have seen have been so close to the margins. And that's just hit me once and then managed to hook him up for the second time. And to be fair, probably the chunkiest little pike we've had today. You little cool. Wow. We've come round into one of the other bays. We've walked a lot of the lake today. Every fish we've seen has been right in the margins, and this one, I've just chucked it up the margins there, and he's come out and nailed it, come off, put another cast across it, and hopefully we've got it on film, but he come up and had it straight away. But this fish, I can actually hear it and feel it crunching. This is absolutely full of crayfish. So what I think we said earlier about the potential that these fish are munching on crayfish. So I think, yeah, it hasn't been that successful today, so why not come back tomorrow? We'll bring a few crayfish imitations or some sort of creature bait patterns and see if we can't nick one or two more. Morning guys, we're back on Horseshoe Carp Society, Lechlade. We found a few fish yesterday. It was relatively tough fishing. It's really clear, and the fish are really tucked into the edge. So all of our fish, well, bigger than that, were on the 23 centimetre pro grub yesterday. But we did see, which I mentioned yesterday, we saw some of these fish eating crayfish. So I've come out this morning with the mega craw, a few different colours. So we're going to have a little go with this. I've got a funny feeling we're going to resort back to the bright colours and catch on those. But yeah, let's give it another go, see whether our theory about the crayfish works, and see if we can get a fish on them. So I've just fan cast my way all the way around this swim. We did have a follow in here yesterday on the big bright baits, and I've started on a natural mega craw, which, to be honest, the coloration looks really bang on for what we've seen as the crayfish here. I haven't had a pull, haven't had a follow, just thought I might have got a follow. In this clear water you can get a lot of information back from seeing the pike follow or obviously getting a hit. So I'm going to go full on lemon tiger. Looks obviously crayfish shape, but looks nothing like a crayfish. But it really wouldn't surprise me if we get a pull on this now. So it'd be really interesting just to see whether the fish we were catching yesterday was because of the style of bait or because of the coloration. So yeah, let's go bright, see if we can get one. There's one. Can you believe it? We've covered that water, oh, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 casts with that other colour in that exact same spot. And I've just said I wanted to go around the same pattern, exactly the same spots. And we've had one. It's only a tiny little fish, look, but that does show that it really is the colour. So let's see if we can just hand land this one in. We've only got a single on this morning, so to be honest, I don't mind if it thrashes its way off, but if we can avoid the net, it'll be useful. Trying to jump on the bank himself. There we go. Look at that. I do actually really like fishing just a single, but it's not a very big fish, but that is a real like eye-opener as to how colours can make a big difference in your fishing. So I mean, that fish has obviously been sat down there. He's absolutely covered in leeches, so he's sat on the bottom. We've already covered that fish with a more natural colour and second cast. So yeah. Go. Well, that's really interesting. Definitely it's a different fish. I actually thought for a split second it could be the same fish, but it's not. And we've just pulled the bait through 2 casts, I reckon, and we've had another one. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate they're no monsters, but what it really has highlighted is that colour has made all the difference. So that bright green chartreusey lemon tiger, very similar to the UV perch I was using yesterday in the Pro Grub, today in the Mega Claw. Oh, making all the difference. Well, I just thought I'd take a couple of minutes out to go through the rods and reels we've been using today and yesterday. So yesterday I started on the bigger, brighter bait as ever. But for these bigger baits, you need a bit more of a stout rod, and primarily it's actually to set the hooks home, to move that bait and to set the hooks home as much as it is for the casting. So for this, I've been using the new range, which is the Fox Rage TR. This is actually the Replicant Special. As with most rods, don't worry about what they're actually called, worry about the rating. So this is a 40 to 120. We've only got 8 grams of lead actually on the lure, but I don't know what that lure weighs off the top of my head, but it's probably 30 or 40 grams of rubber there. So you've got to remember that you're, taking into account all of it. But this I've had paired with a loose Super Duty 300, and to be honest, it's a great bit of kit to use. Nice and light to use all day long. Strong enough to get a big pike out, which we haven't had any big pike, but it's obviously handled all the smaller pike that we've caught. And yeah, if you're in the market for chucking bigger baits, certainly have a look at some along these lines. So I always like to tackle these venues with 2 pretty different setups. I love fishing with big baits, just purely the hits on big baits are mega, but they don't always want a big bait. And if you switch around to smaller baits, like what we've been using today, the Mega Craw, you're going to really struggle to cast them and to fish nicely with these really heavy rods. So the other rod that I've decided to take out today is actually the Prism X. So it's one of our cheaper ranges in comparison to the TR. nothing really, you know, that it can't do. Excuse me. It's been absolutely fantastic for this. Again, where I say ignore the name, this is actually called a Zander Pro, but I've picked this rod up because in the casting range is 7 to 28. I've been chucking 7 or 10 gram of lead plus the lure, so it's perfect for that. But also it was the extra length that I've got in this rod, which just allows me to cast that a little bit further. We don't really know the venue. I did fish it once many years ago, but a lot of these gravel pits you want to be fishing beyond the marginal shelf, and as it happens today, most of our fish have come in the margins, but you still need to be able to you know, cast those further distances if you require. And this is actually with a TR reel. This is the 2,500, I think, yep, and just sort of 15-pound braid. It's worked absolutely perfect. 16 kilo wire trace, which again, you know, you're not going to lose any fish on it. Like I always say, I do fish a little bit of fluoro above it, but that's just personal preference. But yeah, check it out. The Prism X has done me great. So in the last couple of days, we've used a few baits. I obviously have started on big and bright. It's probably not most people's go-to on a clear venue, but I just love stick it in their face. If they can see it, they're likely to have a go. You'll probably notice I've started on the curly tail, and I haven't really fished much paddle tails. I've fished a couple, but my logic behind this is it was evident straight away that there's a lot of weed still, and there's a lot of blanket weed, and you can fish these super slow over the top of the weed and have a really great presentation, where I find you have to fish the paddle tails a lot faster over the top of the weed, and you know, you can't quite get that same presentation. So the fact that we started on this and we caught a fish second cast is pretty evident that it's you know, that it's a good place to start. So not always is a colour like this your way to start, but for me it just felt right. Clear water, not particularly pressured fish, and yeah, the proof was in the pudding. So that was the 23 centimetre Pro Grub in UV perch. So we did try a couple of the other colours and sizes. I think these are the 16 centimetre. If I'm honest, it just didn't really provide enough movement in the water, and just probably doesn't push enough water to actually get much of a reaction. We got 1 or 2 follows, but we didn't actually catch on these today or yesterday. But that size, the 16 centimetre, is well worth a go. The 23 is a bit special really. It's a bit of a big bait, but definitely the 16. We also had a few casts on smaller, what I'd call more finessey paddle tails, you know, the 10 centimetre Pro Shad. Normally you'd expect to catch on this straight away, but it just didn't feel right, didn't seem right. So we also tried, you know, your darker, more natural colours in the Zander Pro, and also in the Super Slick Shad. This actually is one of my favourite colours, and just couldn't get a reaction. So on a different day it would probably clean up, but today and yesterday certainly hasn't been the case. But one thing we really did notice is the volume of crayfish and the volume of pike with bellies full of crayfish. So last night I went home, had a little rummage, and picked out straight away the mega craw, and I was like, as soon as I saw this colour, I thought, that's just going to get smashed. We fished this quite a bit this morning. I didn't get a bite, but what was really evident is I then pulled across, same bait, same size, same jig head, but in the lemon tiger, so super bright, really fluorescent in the water, and this got smashed straight away. In fact, we had 2 fish on it in about 5 casts. So it did prove that the last 2 days, this kind of colour and pattern worked a lot better than these. So just make sure you keep your keep your mind open and don't be afraid of using something a bit bright and leery. Now we've got him. Another one on the Lemon Tiger Mega Craw. So 3 fish this morning, a couple of follows. Tried the natural colour as I explained earlier, and no good. And yeah, a bit of an eye opener just how clear the water is and how bright a bait this worked. So the other Pro Grub worked really well yesterday. Yeah, no big fish, but hey, it's been fun here at Horseshoe. We've caught a few, we've seen a few. I think maybe when a bit more of this weed's died off and you can fish a little bit closer to it, probably get a few more, but it's been good fun.